Hey, we're live. It's This Week in vCons with Thomas and Jeff. Hey, how was your week in vCons, Thomas?
I had a full week of vCons. I got I got my shirt on.
I see that. Yeah,
I'm
and
I'm I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
literally drinking the Kool-Aid. That's
Drinking the
amazing.
Kool-Aid.
And I have to say, I saw your post to the IETF mailing list with a vCon extension for Morse code. That was like brilliant, brilliant.
That's for you. That's for you and
Thank you.
all the hams I love. I'll tell you.
That was absolutely terrific. And
Wasn't
I
it
just
fun?
wonder, what people are thinking, well, what is he talking about? And do we really need to do this? Wow. That is cool. And today we have a very special guest of This Week in vCons. Do you want to do the proper intro?
Yeah, we do. And so I'm really happy to have this guy on the call today. And I just a little bit of a quiz. Maybe you can guess who it's going to be. One of the original. Okay, I'll give you a couple hints. Okay, and so keep this in your head. Maybe we can figure it out. First hint is he was one of the original white paper authors.
Okay.
He bears a striking resemblance to Santa Claus.
Okay, that narrows it down.
Narrows it down. And his name is Alan Quayle. So, can you guess?
Yes, I believe it's Alan. I'm going to bring Alan to the stage. Hey, good morning, Alan. Welcome.
It's Alan.
Hey, good to see you guys. I hope you're all well.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. Enjoying North Carolina at the moment.
Oh, beautiful North Carolina.
I know. Yeah. It's quite warm. It's summer weather here, not spring. It's where you get, it's like when the evening's a little bit cool, that's gone. It's warm.
Warm is warm. And after the harsh winter we had in the Northeast, I would appreciate a warm summer day in April any time of year.
Alan, you stay there. Jeff's on his way.
Yeah. So today we're talking about some wonderful innovation. From what I understand, some really wonderful innovation that's happening in the world of vCons.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I invited Alan on today because we just had our fourth vCon, third.
Yeah, I think
third.
Yeah.
A third hackathon for vCons, and every year it keeps getting better and better. And I felt like Alan would be a
So before we get into this year's contestants, how did it start out? What was the incentive to start the first hackathon for vCons?
Well, the idea for doing a hackathon, really, we have to go back to 2023. So, 2013, sorry. Oh, God, get my decades confused. So it was a long time ago. We were like, well, we don't need to just do a conference. Let's do a hackathon. So that was the first TAD hack we did. And we got a whole range of programmable, comms pieces. And I just invited people from universities, people within the industry, to just come and build stuff that matters to you. Because that's always been, it's like, not about the tech and showing you can use the tech. It's showing a problem you can solve using the tech. So that was always, it's your motivation. Why are you doing this? And you'll see that come through as I review some of the hacks. So that's the background. And we've been running consistently for basically, since 2013. And the past couple of years, we've dedicated TAD Hack to a particular vendor. So, because it makes it easy, because when you have a number of vendors, then, the developer's trying to work, well, who should I hack on? Which is going to have the best chance of winning. It becomes a bit of a gaming thing. So when we did last year and we did this year, we basically said, this is a hackathon dedicated to build on vCon. But also the resources, we had an MCP server now. So there's a whole host of interesting stuff you can build. And also the story around vCon, basically consent, life cycle. We were able to train up all these engineers around the world. And the beautiful thing is in the hacks they created, it shows, their understanding and their applications specific to their environments. Now, for example, in Africa, trust is a major issue. Well, trust is a major issue everywhere. But they were showing how you can use vCon to record conversations and have physical evidence that on this date, you said we could do this, or you would deliver X. And where is it? So you can basically convert conversations into contracts, that you can basically, they're justifiable. So that was part of it. And, also, I mean, like Anna did a great one on basically animal rescue. Because again, one of the beautiful things that vCon recognizes is the diversity conversations. I mean, when we look at healthcare, we had Consig on recently on TAD Summit. They're solving the problem for doctors in the disparate conversations they have with their patients, and trying to consolidate it into a unified view. Again, it's the power of vCon. So we see all these different applications being used. And I just have to give a special shout out to Apparition. So that's David and Jared. They showed here, vCon this is an entity, an asset that you can use to describe a complete experience around interacting with points of interest on a map. I mean, it was very powerful.
It was amazing. Yeah, can I talk about that for a minute? Because I think they were the winners this time. And that team had.
Where are they based? And what was their inspiration for creating this application?
Are they in England? Where are they?
No. They're Orlando. So
they're Orlando, England.
And their inspiration, again, one of the great things is because we happen every year, people are able to like sustain. It's like, oh, we had this nice idea, and we can build on it. So they were about using vCon last year in when you visit a art gallery, and they were using the example of an outdoor art gallery. You can basically record the experiences, and it becomes basically a journal of all, and linked to the artwork you're looking. So it's all those links, and it becomes an asset that you can basically put onto your life canvas. We have that coming up later. That was the beginning. And what they did for this year is we can use that asset, and we can add in location. And then as you approach, for example, it could be an ancient building, it could be a hut, some point of interest. Your experience on your phone then could be playing music, it could be playing text, video. So as you walk up, you get a very, could be spooky experience, it could be educational experience. It's purely what you're trying to do around that point of interest. And that's beautiful. It just shows, guys, use vCon in so many weird and wonderful ways. And that's when you're about to go mass market, when you have those type of applications.
And that's why I judged it the best, because it was a great example of how we never just thought about this at the start. We thought about a lot of things, right? Not this. And so to put a vCon with a physical asset, and that vCon can contain context, a dialogue, it could contain a video about the asset, it's got a location in it. It really begins to like put digital data into a physical location.
Yes. Oh yeah. And very rich. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, and they were just showing with their phone, just walking up to a hut, and then the music playing and getting louder, and it was sweet.
Now, are any of these applications available for people to demonstrate, to look at themselves and to play with and to be inspired by?
Absolutely. It's all up on GitHub. So you can basically, as a developer, you can get in and download. They're not, commercial services, but I would say all the developers who are building this stuff are happy to work with people that can help them.
So how could people find which GitHub? There's a lot of projects on GitHub. So where?
Yes, actually, so Conserver.io has a page that has all the hacks and an analysis of all of them. Every hack has its own page. We've converted every hack into a vCon itself. So you can actually get the hack from their video, and their links are in a vCon. So you can get that from Conserver.io too. And
the contact details. So if somebody wants to hear more, let's say someone's running a museum in Milwaukee, and they love the concept, and they want people to do a walking tour outside this summer. This sounds like something which maybe the curator would like to talk about. Can the curator of that museum reach out to these developers?
Yeah, and let me just like point out one really interesting movement in technology, that vibe coding today looks a lot like mashups last year, right? Yeah. Because they're done quickly, they're done in a short amount of time, they're done for a particular purpose, right? And so if you think about the ways in which we're doing mashups yesterday and doing this to now, it might reveal how we're going to be deploying services in the future. So maybe in the future, it's going to be the guy who runs the museum and go, that's a great idea. He'll turn to Lovable and go, Lovable, make me a vCon framework for my museum.
Exactly.
Well, this sounds amazing. So how many different people entered this year's hackathon?
Oh, I really should know the total numbers. I don't have them to hand. It's tens of people were involved. We have it all listed up on blog.tadac.com, so you can get into the gory details of each of the hacks. And again, they're really great. There's presentations associated with them. Most of them have a GitHub. And the great thing is we have the videos of them explaining the hacks and how it works.
So the videos too are all sitting in the GitHub?
Yes. And
wow.
they're sitting in a vCon in this GitHub. So you can actually give the hack to Claude and say,
exactly
here.
Yeah.
Now speaking of Claude, there's perhaps not today, but in 2026, leading up to the IPO of Anthropic, my belief is that Claude is going to, it's sort of like, if you remember the Netscape moment of 96, I guess it was, which was like one of the first internet IPOs that consumers can get their hands into. Since we've been living in the world of ChatGPT and Claude for a while, my feeling is that Anthropic somehow got to the head of the class, ahead of Elon and others and OpenAI public. And so we're going to be if we're not in an AI hype cycle already, we're definitely going to be on one starting in June, leading up to that, leading up to the Claude or Anthropic IPO. And I believe there was some research shared, I forget by whom, but that Anthropic was saying that people who speak their prompts get much better results than people who write their prompts into Claude, which led me to thinking that maybe there's a big vCon play here that as people get really excited about this new technology coming to market, maybe we could be playing a much bigger role in how these things get used, particularly from a usefulness perspective, because frankly, having that container for those conversations, encapsulating and having all that metadata, we know it's really valuable. How do we communicate that to the world that that's something which is very valuable to that ecosystem? What are your ideas about that?
Well, I'll jump in. Well, this is part of the reason for the hackathon. I mean, maybe
I'm just leading the guests here. I'm just asking.
But this is if you think about who participated in the hackathon you asked before, a couple dozen people, and 16 submissions, I think.
Yeah.
From college students and professionals and everyone in between.
And it was global, right? It wasn't just people in Orlando.
Oh yes, across the world.
In fact, part of the thing on Conservative.io is an analysis of the populations where they came from.
Cool.
Which is we had, so Africa's in the house, by the way. Africa's doing great.
Oh yeah.
Really coming.
Nigeria, Kenya, big representation.
Yeah, and it's a demonstration of how widely applicable it could be for so many different reasons. And and by the way, you're absolutely right around using prompts and voice into that whole thing. And I think it's actually one little piece of evidence in a larger problem, which is what happens to software when it's easier to write than maintain.
Yeah.
Right. What happens? Yeah, I mean, like what happens to open source when maintaining is a pain and regenerating ain't.
Yes.
But ironically, Thomas, it's because of the popularity of vibe coding that open source has become cool again. And so, because what are you vibe coding on? You're vibe coding on open source, most likely, right?
Well,
maybe.
Yes, but I'm saying what happens in the future? You might be vibe coding on prompts.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. Yes. I'm sorry. Yes, of course you're vibe coding on prompts, but what you're affecting is code sitting someplace. Maybe.
Yeah, but imagine that. Just imagine a world where there isn't any software, but there is a prompt, and what you do is you give the prompt to the vibe, and it gives you the software.
But maybe. But what about libraries? Maybe we need to have some Claude extensions or libraries which have that knowledge inside of it. And maybe I'm just thinking, because I do think there's going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity to be part of that build up to the Anthropic IPO. Not that we're hypesters, not that we're doing anything anything. But the reality is, when people are focused on voice prompting, they're focused on voice, focused on the future of AI. I do believe that vCons can play a much more significant role. A friend of mine a month ago suggested that similarly how you can do comma-separated file formats to extract data in and out of spreadsheets, why couldn't vCons be the container that you go in between LLMs with the prompting and all that conversational information?
Why not? Sure could be. Yep, sure could be.
Anyway, so I'm just putting it out there that maybe someone listening, someone watching, maybe in your brain when you kick off a task, help me figure out, because I think that we can get a lot more visibility for vCons in a most positive way if we could figure out how that we could be part of that, vCon clue train into the into that, because there's going to be a lot of folks from all over the world looking at the IPO analytically. And I think that we're holding on to a key to actually make it even stronger and more powerful.
It's what you said at the beginning. It's robot food. So basically, they're sharing food.
Mm-hmm. And you said the magic word clue train. What is the first big idea in the clue train manifesto? Markets are conversations.
Yeah. There you go. Again.
Yep.
Spot on.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's where, and I think we have this, the opportunity is now. And by the way, when OpenAI eventually goes public and others will have the other opportunities. But I think that you're at a meta level here that we can do a lot of things. And people who've never heard about a vCon, they'll learn, they'll understand. And I'm just impressed. So from the history of the hackathons, have any of the companies that submitted hackathons in the past submitted to TED Hack, have they come in and are they commercialized? Is it sort of like the equivalent of like American Idol, where you're finding all these brilliant talents and all of a sudden now people get signed to record labels? Is anyone who submitted into the hackathons on commercial?
Well, not at that level of popularity. However, I would say that, generally speaking, if you win at the hackathon, it's not necessarily the greatest thing. Normally, it's not the winners. It's some of the runners-up. They go on to be basically commercially successful. So we've had, every year, companies are created, are successful, and used the hack and the prize money. You've got to bear in mind that $3,000 when you're winning as a startup out of Nigeria, that matters. That's important funding and makes a difference to their business. So, and that, we're not trying to be like an incubator. All we're trying to do is recognize talent and help that talent succeed. So definitely, we have the vCon App Store, and Mind Making is doing a great job in helping build.
Mind Making is a great example. Their engineering staff came straight out of the hack.
Exactly. Yep, and they're doing really well. And that's part of your matriculation of Anna.
Yes, yeah, we matriculated Anna, who was one of the winners last year, who's a part of the Mind Making staff, and we had so many good entries this time. We broke them into two categories: the student category and the old man category.
Professional.
And Anna, even she's not an old man; she's a young lady.
Yes,
writes code like an old person, and so like, you know what? We can't because you're not a student anymore. You're just too good for them.
Wow.
So she's now neurmatriculated. Her coworker Sabrina was really on the edge. So next year I think it's her turn to graduate. So
and that'll be great. And Sabrina was sharing that she really felt this year she improved a lot, has developed a lot in terms of skills, abilities. And I think for Sabrina, she always plucks at the heartstrings. Every one of her picks are just so pitch perfect. Life canvas. You can record your whole life using vCons.
Incredible. It's amazing. Yeah, and if you look back in time, Montage did a great job this year.
Knocked it out of the park in terms of basically building, the adapter, and then that whole hack he created to show basically using the integration.
The vCon community is a community, and there's so many of us who met each other through this and who have been together forever, and a lot of connections and relationships. It's one of the best things I think I like about vCons. Actually, the people who hang around this.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
Well, look, congratulations on hosting, on seeing, and having the vision to know that this is where it was going, and it's certainly where it's going to. And so, for folks who are learning about vCons and they want to see operating code, it sounds like conserver.io is where to go to see stuff in action. Thomas, any betting pools about when the RFC may be coming out? Do you think it's 2026, 2027? What do you think?
Well, I said I don't want to get ourselves in trouble here, but there's a thing called Polymarket.
Yeah, I'm saying I was just leading in on that a little bit, but we're not going to be on Poly. I'm not on Polymarket. I'm aware of it. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So we're rushing really fast towards working group last call. We've got a couple more items that we're working on, but we've got a lot of support from our ADs to get this finished. It's going to be this year sometime. And the Vienna meeting is in July. I think we'd like to be at last calls around July. Okay, so we think it's going to be in 2026.
Excellent. That's great news.
That's great news for everybody, because the moment that RFC comes out, watch out, this does go through the roof. And and I'm just curious, at the last IETF, how were the hackathons there? Was anyone playing with MCP and vCons?
Yes. So can I tell you about the hack I did? I had such a great time doing this one. So what I did was I converted the last 15 IETF sessions into vCons. And I mean, every single session was like 2,700 of them, because there's like maybe.
Yeah, and that's the repository that was pointed to in the post.
Correct. And so for my hack, I asked the question of all the conversations we've had inside IETF, including the emailing lists and the presentations and the slides and the actual video. What are the actual design principles of the internet? Now we can talk about them, but as we get in the room and we start to design protocols, what are the rules? What are the things that we like and don't like and all that? And so my hack was it's called the design of the internet as revealed by conversation.
Oh.
Wow.
And what it did was it went through all 2,500 conversations and asked the question, what are the design principles that were spoken of? And it came out with 12 of them.
Oh.
And for each of the 12, it gives you a page that tells you what it is and why we're talking about it, and then all the times we did talk about it. And you can click in to hear the conversations with the vCons. So if you don't know what the end-to-end principle is, and you ought to if you're designing the internet, you can go into that page, read what it means and why it's important, and then go to the conversations we have about it. And so it really is a great teaching tool in surfacing all that dark operational data in the internet design community.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, look, this is an amazing episode of This Week in vCons. Alan, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thomas, thank you for sponsoring that. And really, it's just amazing to see where we're going. And 2026 is a very interesting year for vCons. I'm super excited, and I just want to give a shout out to Thomas, who's transitioning from being in China to being in Dallas, and he knocked it out of the park at the conference in Dallas. And I think we're gonna. I think after what I experienced at the conference, there's definitely a need to do a developer summit for vCons as it goes more mainstream. So what I'm thinking is, and not to avoid any marketing miscues. On the commercial side, I'm going to be voice and conversations on the net on the top line, and then the dev sessions we're going to have, or vCon dev sessions, are all about vCon. So it's sort of like we get to talk about the meta level and talk about the technical level. So I'm thinking, just putting it out there for October 13th, the pre-conference day should be a vCon developer summit, literally, where people can get their hands dirty, feet dirty, and go all in and be inspired to create. Because I think we're at a point in time where people are going to start playing catch up, particularly if that vCon RFC is coming out this year. It's going to be a time to play. And I'm happy to see at least the manifestation of people being interested from all over the world in where the technology is going and where their future is. And for people familiar with the history of telecom, when that SIP RFC hit, everything went crazy good.
Yeah.
Was
it before and after, huh? Was it before?
No, it was, look, it was 30 years ago in September, when I hosted the Talking Net conference. That was talking on the internet. I didn't differentiate voice or video. Then in April of 97, I got a little more specific. I called it Voice on the Net. Now, I just assumed we'd be talking on the internet. I never said what protocol we were using. And frankly, back in 96, 97, a lot of proprietary stuff. And frankly, you know, it was early, but I just assumed that. And so taking that liberty 30 years later, calling it voice and conversations on the net, I know we're having conversations, right? And we know we got the voice part working, and the technical details of that magic of what happens when you can have those memories stored and be compliant is, you know, no, I don't think 30 years ago anyone ever thought about what it meant to have data assets that are conversations and those memories and those values. But now that we're smarter with more experience, I think where we go with this is beyond the telecom industry, and I think that's really key and important here. That until now the Vaughn events were telecom oriented because there was the voice part, but once we get to the conversation side of it, it's about social, and it also transforms business. I mean, personal business, corporate business. I think understanding conversations, and as Thomas would talk about, that dark data that's always been sitting there that no one could act on, that changes how people can operate proactively, so that rather than being a reactive company, you can be a proactive company. And I think from the creation of a business perspective, if you know you can build a business and be proactive from the start, it just changes how business operates. And so this is a significant game changer in how the world will operate. I believe that the introduction of vCon, inserting it into the bloodline of a company, done right, I think can put people eons ahead of where we were just yesterday. So for me, it's a big thing. Yeah. So anyway, and I thank you for doing this, because it's the work that you're doing that's enabling others to just follow and add on top of it. So I thank you for having the time to share your brilliance. It's awesome.
Our pleasure.
Well, guys, thanks for making this a very special edition of This Week in vCons. I encourage the listeners to follow Thomas and Alan. I am sure they're available on LinkedIn if you have questions. You go to it's Conscrver, CONSCRVER.io. That's where the
repository.
That's the repository.
And check out Tad Hack and Tad Summit, where the vCons were born.
And if you want to have a little bit of fun, just search out the Morse code extension suggested on April 1st by Thomas. That was brilliant. Thanks for joining us in This Week in vCons. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.